Welcome back to New Earth News. Today we have a very special guest who is going to share all about, oh my gosh, one of Christine and my favorite topics, the beauty of
Yes.
nature, holistic remedies, how to heal naturally with the gifts that are provided by our very own Mother Earth. And our guest today is Amelia South, Master Folk Herbalist of Black Sun Farm. Amelia is a self-taught forager and tree whisperer who loves teaching people and empowering them with the knowledge of how to heal themselves naturally. Welcome to the show, Amelia. We're so happy to have you.
Welcome.
Thank
Yes,
you.
so
It's good to be
welcome.
here. Thank you.
Awesome. So let's dive in. Amelia, why don't you just begin by telling us a little bit about you? What's your story and how did you get started in this type of work?
Oh gosh. Well, a lot of people ask me how long of when did you get started with herbalism, herbal medicine? And for anybody that's listening that has ever had a child, if you have any kids, you know that when you have a baby, there's like nothing you can give a baby.
Hmm.
If your baby gets sick or has colic or upset stomach or there is nothing safe to give a baby until they're at least 6 months, almost a year old. So, when I had my daughter, gosh, how 15 years ago, so 2009, I had my daughter and she was colicky after like 2 weeks. And I'm like, what can I do? And the whole internet said, nothing, just deal with
Yeah.
it. So I said, I don't believe that. So I looked into herbal medicine and a little bit of chamomile tea actually soothed her pretty well. And then, you could give her some fennel tea for her stomach upset and that kind of thing. I started figuring out a bunch of different herbs that I could work with to heal my infant. And that's basically that got me really into like when you the very first time you ever try an herb, like somebody says, "Oh yeah, try this," and you're like, "I don't think this is going to work. I think this is BS or whatever," and you try it and it actually works, that changes your mind,
Yeah.
especially if it makes a big difference, in your life. Whether it's for you or your child or your parent or whoever it is, when you see that herb making a huge difference in somebody's life, that's an eye-opening moment. So that's how I got started. I started from there. I kind of wandered around to foraging. Like the first time I ever foraged was 2006. I was really poor and I lived in a one-bedroom apartment, really crappy apartment out in Washington State. And if anybody that's listening lives in Washington State, you've probably
I
heard of
do.
Mary. Oh yeah, Marion berries,
Yes.
blackberry.
Yes.
They're everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah.
Absolutely everywhere. So I honestly thought, I was like, you're crazy if you don't go out and harvest some and at least eat some or, make them into jam or something. So I taught myself how to make jam and pies and freeze them and all kinds of stuff because I was like, hey, I'm poor. I need food. And I went and
That
picked
is
a bunch of
so
free
cool.
blackberries. So I could, because when I have a problem, I find the solution to that problem.
Yeah.
That's how I got started, and it just kind of started slowly building from there. When the easiest thing for people to start with when they want to get into foraging, most people are interested in food because it's free food, and
Yeah.
that's, dear to everybody's heart. You start with a food and then you start moving into the medicinal stuff. But the easiest thing to get started with foraging is fruit because everybody recognizes fruit. You can almost always, like in most areas, there's gonna be some field somebody knows about somewhere with like abandoned apple trees, or there's some old lady that doesn't like lets all the apples fall in her yard, and you can knock
Yeah.
on her door and say, "Hey, would you mind if I pick up the apples on the ground?" And they usually don't care, honestly. If you see a mushroom in somebody's yard, you can knock and say, "Hey, can I get that mushroom?" I most of the time I get a lot of stuff out in the parks, or because I teach foraging classes now, I go around to different people's properties, and 99.9% of the time, if I say, "Oh, hey, look at what we just found in your woods. Would you mind if I take this home with me?" They're like, "Sure, I don't care. It's not like I knew what it
Right.
was before." So
That's so freaking
yeah,
cool.
I
I'm sitting there
know.
like excited as hell because I
It's
found.
free.
Yeah, exactly. It's free. I did a foraging walk for a lady back in, I think, May or June last year, and she ended up having this just. She goes, "There's this little orange mushroom. I wanted to see if you knew what it was. You can have some if you want, if it's anything." And she shows me like on this hillside. So I had to like climb this hillside, but there was like a 10 or 20-foot patch of chanterelles. And I'm like, I lost it. I'm like, that is one of the most amazing tasty mushrooms ever. And so I have a giant jar of chanterelles now, in my cupboard that I still haven't used all of. I'm like, I'm saving them
Are
for
you
a rainy day.
are you still here in Washington?
No, I live in Connecticut now.
Okay.
I lived in Washington for about 4 years, but now I was born and raised in New England, and I lived in Washington for 4 years, and then I lived in California, and then I lived in Massachusetts, and now I'm back in. I actually live about almost walking distance from where I went to high school, which is kind of depressing, but you end up,
Full circle.
life takes you back. Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, anyway, I didn't start really getting into like the spiritual side of it as much until, gosh, maybe 2016, 2017. My ex-husband had been out to a couple of retreats, learning Native American ways because he was part Native American, and he was like learning his history, and he taught me some of that. So I started getting into that. And of course, like part of that is respecting nature and reciprocity. Reciprocity is, you're not just going to take a bunch of stuff from nature without giving anything back. So I started looking more into that. I also, I think it was 2019, I started taking I took all basically every class from the Northwestern School of Aromatic Medicine. And that's, he's out in Washington, but the fun thing, like I took he had an old class called Listening to Incense, where you're learning how to communicate with the plants and how to listen and talk with the plants. And
Dang.
like one of the things he would send out is this little packet of different herbs that you would test this herb this week and spend some time with this herb and try to communicate with this herb. So I distinctly remember that he sent some cedar and a little bag of cedar. And I sat down and I lit the cedar, and I was, just listening to it and paying attention to it and trying to see, is this cedar going to give me any kind of a message or of any kind? Because they always say whatever comes into your head is part of the message.
That's so
And
freaking cool.
I started just, I was burning the cedar and smelling it and enjoying it. And I started thinking about when I used to live in Washington State, and I hung out with my friends that were in the SCA, and we were doing archery practice, and it was beautiful, this spot in the middle of like all these evergreens and cedars, and I just hanging out there. And so the next day, like I commented on that section of the course to the teacher. I said, this is what I experienced when I was burning cedar. And, I used to live out in the Pacific Northwest. And he said, well, that's interesting because, I harvested that here from my house, my farm. And I can't remember the name of the town right now. It was in Washington. He said, I live in this town. And I was like, that sounds awfully familiar. And I looked on a map, and it was the same town as where I had gone to archery practice with those people in the SCA. And it was the same plant, the same cedar that was around there.
Wow.
So I was
That's
like,
really
wow,
cool.
the plant was saying, hey, remember me?
Oh
Right.
my gosh, how
Like the
amazing.
spirit of the plant.
Yeah. I thought that was just so cool, and I've had other experiences like that. And ever since I learned how to communicate with and listen to the plants, that's just been an incredible part of my herbal practice. You always want to ask permission before you take something. Now, granted, there's a limit to that, and I say that just being a reasonable human being. If I grow a whole row of tomatoes in my garden, I'm not going to sit there and ask permission before I pick every single tomato. The tomato plant and I have an agreement that I'm growing you and I'm weeding around you and I'm fertilizing you so that you will give me some food. That is just that's not unspoken agreement there. But if
Right.
I'm out in the woods, where I didn't plant these things, these are all wild plants, then I will definitely ask permission, especially if it's a tree. In my personal experience, trees are much easier to communicate with than like little smaller plants. And it's not that you can't. Like if I was out and I found a giant patch of mugwort or a yarrow or something like that, I would be pretty easily able to communicate with that. There's a whole bunch of them. It's like their voices are louder. It's like talking with a crowd. Whereas a tree, I usually will touch the tree. And now some people give me crap because they're like, well, you don't have to touch it to talk. I'm like, no, I prefer the touch communication. I just put my hand on the tree, and I sometimes I close my eyes. I don't really have to close my eyes anymore, but what you do is you basically imagine there's like a little red string tied around your heart connected to the inside heartwood of the tree. And you're communicating through spirit. You're listening, imagine something's coming along there, and whatever you feel / hear / see in your mind's eye, that's what it's saying. So yes and no is pretty easy. Sometimes people say, oh, what's the tree's name? And it's like, dude, most trees don't have a name. They don't really.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
So
like-
I actually do that. I put my hands on trees and I take deep breaths, but I like ask them in my head first, is it okay if I touch you or if I hug you?
Yeah.
And I don't like hear or necessarily feel anything back, so I still do it anyways. But so that was really cool that you explained that to me.
Well,
Because
if
maybe
you feel it, you will feel it. Because people ask me all the time, does a tree ever say no? Yes, you'll know it. Because
really?
basically, oh yeah, I've had. Well, when you talk with a tree, you can put your hand on the tree and just say hi. Most of the time, if I'm in the woods, if I don't have anything, I'm not trying to forage anything. I don't have an agenda. If I see a pretty tree, I put my hand and I say, hey, I just wanted to tell you you're beautiful. I love you. You're gorgeous. And I talk with them and they love that. Most trees love that. And say, can I hug you? Yeah, absolutely. Trees want to be hugged. If you've never talked with a tree ever before, please try talking with a pine tree. Pine trees are like talking with a golden retriever. They're the friendliest friggin' things. It's like a dog wagging its tail. Hey, how are you? Yeah, oh my God, you're gonna talk
How
to me?
cute! Really? So I
It's so
talk to
funny.
them all the time. Like I will drive by them and wave at them because when the wind's waving them, I think they're waving to us and being like, "Hey." So I like wave at them.
Sometimes they are, yeah.
And I think I'll see them through a window. I love it. And my husband's like, "You're so funny," but I really genuinely think they're saying, "Hey, wave back."
They are. They're like, hey, I'm lonely. Can you come talk to me?
Right.
So when you see a tree like in the middle of the woods, if you go see one of those big, big, big trees, I have to hug. If it's a huge tree, I have to hug it. I just say, hi, I have to hug you. You're gorgeous. I love you. You're beautiful. And they get really happy. You just like get a smile on your face. Like,
I
this
get that
tree's really
too.
happy.
I don't hear anything or anything, but I get
you're
that
not
too.
gonna
I'm
hear
like,
it. You're gonna feel it.
Okay. Thank you for that.
And I've got another story I could tell you about talking where I didn't it wasn't words, but I got the idea. But definitely, you're gonna feel something. And one time I was trying to forage for some hickory bark to make hickory bark syrup, and I saw a shagbark hickory, and I put my hand on it, and I said, hey, would you mind if I take some of your bark? And it was like, who the hell are you? I don't know who you are. What are you doing? And you didn't even introduce yourself and you're going to strip me? What's wrong with you? So I was like, okay, I'm sorry. And I backed away and I went further down the trail and I found another shagbark and I put my hand, I said, hi, I'm Amelia. Nice to meet you. And I was a little bit of pleasantries. And then I was, it was like, hey, how's it going? And I said, would you mind if I picked a couple of these little chunks of bark that are hanging off? Yeah, sure. No problem. No worries. They want you to introduce yourself before you start stripping stuff, Don't just take anything off the tree without asking. It's rude. It's like walking up to somebody without shaking their hand and say, hey, can I keep the shirt off your back?
Right. So I have another question, and this is a little far out there, but I have like this huge fantasy one day of taking one of the apple trees I planted and actually getting land, putting like 20 of them in a big circle and potentially building like houses in them. Do they like that? Or is that like insane? They're like, that's abuse.
You're trying to transplant them, you mean?
I'm going to eventually transplant them. That's the dream. But I want to live in a tree house. And
okay.
My question is, do they like when people live in them and build on them?
I don't know. I think that would be up to the individual tree. Like you would want to find like I've seen people take one giant tree and make something out of it. Or if there's a tree that's doing poorly, you want to check on the health of the tree for sure. Because there's a lot of trees out there that and there are diseases that can affect trees that you won't even be able to tell that the tree is sick for years and afterwards. Like out here, if you know what a white birch looks like, if you've ever seen a white birch trees originate in Connecticut here, and there's hardly any of them. Like you used to be able to see thousands of them everywhere, and for the last
disease.
Yeah, there's something called the birch borer. It's an insect that bores into the heartwood, and it gets into the wood and lays its eggs, and it starts eating the tree from the inside out. And the tree does not show damage externally for at least 2 years after the thing has taken. And by the time you start seeing the damage, it's too late to save the tree. So what's been happening over the last 20 or 30 years, and this is climate change related, it's just been so wet, and so the conditions have been absolutely perfect in the forest for those insects to keep propagating, to keep breeding more and more and more. And therefore they're just destroying the white birches. It's interesting because there's still yellow birch, sweet birch, black birch all over the place, but the white, they're going crazy for the white birch. You used to see so much of it here, and it's really like they're going away now.
Oh, how sad.
So
that
yeah,
really does feel like it's so sad.
I know.
It is sad because it like birch is seeing birch in the woods was my childhood. They were everywhere, and yeah, it's a bump. Birch is my favorite tree, honestly. I have a very special relationship with birch. My favorite my best-selling product, the physical product that I make is birch oil, and it's an infused oil with the birch bark. And that is because I was trying it one day. Like, I'd heard randomly birch has pain-killing properties, so I was like, oh, I'm gonna try making an oil. And I did, and I was like, just for S's and G's, I kind of, I made an oil, and I strained it out after it was done, and I spilled some on the counter. And I remember standing there, I picked it up with my hand and I just rubbed it on my hips because I've had arthritis in my hips for like years. So I was just doing that, and I kept jarring everything, cleaning everything up. And I noticed like a minute or so later, I'm like, my hips don't hurt anymore. That's interesting. So I started making birch oil, and it's taken a few years for it to really take off. But last year I brought some to the International Herb Symposium in Massachusetts, and I won second place at the Herb Symposium.
Congratulations.
So that was awesome. And I've hundreds of people have tried this, and they're like, oh my God, this is the only thing that's ever worked on my sciatica. This is the only thing that's ever worked on my arthritis.
Oh, wow.
Any of that. So
can I ask you some things about this oil? So I actually I broke my sacrum last Friday, the bone right above your tailbone.
Yeah.
And like I'm in a lot of pain, and I'm not a pain pill kind of person. I've been able to manage taking one a day, but I don't like them. And nothing is helping the pain. So can I actually order some?
Yeah, you can totally order some. I have some in my shop. I just strained another batch of it today, and I'm working on making another batch of it right. This is the perfect time of year. So in herbal medicine, you want to harvest bark in like February and March. That is the perfect time. So if you think about, like, always remember, whenever they're tapping maple trees for maple syrup, which is usually February, March time, that's when you want to be harvesting bark medicinally, because the what it is that the fluids are starting to run again. It's warm enough that the water's starting to come up and down the branch, the cambium layer, and that's when it's at its strongest. So it hasn't put up enough to get the leaves out yet, but it's still got the energy in the bark, and it's really, really strong medicine. I had last year
birch oil.
Birch oil.
Order some of that.
Yeah, you can send me an email or something. I'll send you a link. It's fine.
Oh, okay.
I'll tell you about my shop at the end of this. But yeah, last year I was my son. I hardly ever get sick. I very, very rarely get sick. I take medicinal mushrooms every day. Like reishi and turkey tail and things like that to keep my immune system boosted. But my son brought home some kind of weird plague from school, as children do, and I caught it. So I was feeling really sick for a couple of days, and it was like some kind of weird stomach bug that was like, I wasn't like vomiting everywhere, but there was a lot of pain in my stomach, like pain and twisty pain. And I finally got to a point where I was feeling a little better, and I went for a walk because of course I want to be outside to start feeling better. And I was like, okay, well, it's February. I can't waste February. I wanted to harvest more birch. And I went and I talked to this birch tree that I say hi to all the time. And I was like, hey, would you mind if I took a piece of this branch here? And it was like, yeah, sure. But all I could think about in the back of my mind was how sick I felt and how much my stomach hurt. And I kept this birch bark. The birch was saying, make tea, go make tea, make tea, make tea, make tea. So I was like, all right, fine. And I harvested a couple other birches. They're going, make tea, make tea. And I'm like, fine. So when I got home, I cut up some of the branches. I didn't even strip the bark. I just cut the branches right up and put them in a cup. And I poured some hot water. I didn't make tea properly like I should have. I just poured some hot water over it, stuck it in there, and like after 5 or 10 minutes, I started drinking it, and it tasted great because birch tastes fantastic. It's like a wintergreeny type flavor. And within about 10 or 15 minutes, my stomach pain was gone, and it was gone for like 5 hours.
Oh my gosh. Do you make
awesome.
birch bark?
Yeah, I just made
Blowing
birch
my
bark tea.
mind.
I haven't made them since. I could.
You should put them on your website.
Yeah, well, I don't. The thing is, I'm only one person. I am a one human being, so there's only so many things that I can make. I have like at least 50 jars of tinctures sitting in my kitchen that haven't been like they've been strained, but they haven't been bottled yet. I'm a one woman show. I
Right.
harvest everything sustainably and ethically, and I've had a few people say, "Why don't you just start like a corporation and sell your birch oil like crazy?" I'm like, because I want it to be harvested ethically. I want it to be
Right.
wildcrafted ethically by somebody that cares and is going to say, "Hey, tree, is it okay if I take this?" And
Yeah. You put so much love and energy into that.
exactly. If I start like, and it's always possible that some big corporation is going to be like, "Oh, hey, this works great. I'm just going to go patent it and screw Amelia." But it's kind of like I'm trying to do my best to bring that medicine back to the people because, and I do make a tincture with the birch bark that you can take internally, but it's not quite as like, I like the tincture, but the oil is more like, if I hurt my wrist, I can put the oil right on my wrist and I know my wrist is going to stop hurting in about 15 seconds. Whereas
Is
the tincture you take under your tongue.
okay.
Under
The
the tongue.
oil though, is it external use only?
The oil is meant to be utilized externally. Yeah, I only put it externally. I think you probably could take it internally, but it'd make you sick. So I wouldn't do that. But do the tincture if you want internal. Just just like Tylenol. Like if you take a Tylenol, it's going to put pain relief everywhere. It's not going to hit one specific spot. And that's like the birch. With no side effects, the birch tincture does the same thing, but you end up taking a little bit more of it. The birch oil, you only need a few drops, and it lasts a long time. The tincture, you end up needing probably like 2 or 3 droppers full at least before you're going to get that same pain relief because it has to go systemically throughout your entire body. So
yeah,
hopefully that makes sense.
This is blowing my mind. This is
Yeah.
amazing.
Right.
So,
Do we only have an hour?
I know, right? So, Amelia, you mentioned, your kid came home sick and it's like, it's that time of year that I've got nieces and I really can't see them that much during the colder winter months because they're sick or they're getting over something. And, I'm afraid to get sick too. So like, what would you say are your top 3, or we don't have to limit it. Like, what are the top herbal remedies that we should all have in our toolkit during the winter months to keep our immunity up?
The first thing that you need to do to maintain a healthy immune system is gut health. Honestly, pay attention to your gut. And the simplest thing, like I have my gut healing protocol, which explains all the steps that people can take to heal their gut completely. But the bare minimum, have some kind of probiotics, kombucha or yogurt or something. Even if you're not taking a probiotic, some kind of probiotic type food is excellent, especially for boosting your immune system. Eat the rainbow. I don't know if you've ever heard that. Eat the rainbow. Eating your fruits and vegetables, all the different colors, it's so important because that's where all the vitamins are coming from. And I'm not a vegan. I eat meat, but I'm selective about my meat. So I'll try to find meat from local farms, grass-fed, pasture-raised, or like, hey, I can go visit this farm, see this cow in the field, and then a month later, I know I'm going to buy that cow and put that cow on my dinner plate, And some people are scared of that. Some people, that scares them, but it's like, this is how you get connected to your food source. If you are so disconnected from your food that you have no idea how it's raised, how it's being grown, any of that stuff, that's when people, number one, become vegan because they don't like, the way it's being done, or they don't understand it. And that's how people get sick because the commercial food industry is a nightmare. I prefer supporting other I'm a small farm. I grow a lot of my own food. I raise my own poultry. I slaughter my own poultry. So I've done the whole food system thing for years.
Yeah. And a lot of indigenous cultures do the same as well. They show gratitude and thanks and ask, and they honor their animal before they ingest it.
Every single time I have to kill a chicken to have meat for later, I say, thank you for your sacrifice. Thank you. And I raise them as best I possibly can, as healthy as I can, natural grains and grass and whatnot. I do the best I possibly can. And I try to find other farms that do the same thing with their animals. Cool. So if you're going to eat meat, you can make a meal go a long way with 1 little pound of really good grass-fed beef. Because it's so expensive. But so you're spending like $8 on a pound of ground beef. But if you make enough meal, enough of a meal to feed 4 people for 2 or 3 days. That's like 8
with
pounds,
the correct portions.
Exactly. So there's that. I really highly advocate for medicinal mushrooms, but I'm gonna have to give you a medicinal mushroom lesson, just simple as I can.
I'm all about mushrooms.
Yeah.
I love mushrooms. And people are like, oh, do you do mushrooms? I'm like, I don't do mushrooms. I take medicinal mushrooms. There's a difference. So this is when you are looking for medicinal mushrooms, I personally take reishi, turkey tail, birch polypore, chaga, and maitake every single day. Birch polypore is almost the same as chaga. They both grow on birch. They've got all the same medicinal capabilities. It's just birch polypore grows back every year, whereas chaga takes about 5 to 15 years to grow.
Oh, wow.
So I prefer birch polypore because it's a little bit more, it's more sustainable, when you can find it everywhere. And it's basically almost the same thing medicinally. It tastes different, but it's medicinally the same. So but the thing you want to look for on any mushroom supplement that you're ever going to get is the fruiting body. Okay, now let me explain. If you picture a mushroom, like close your eyes and picture a mushroom, what you're seeing is the fruiting body. That little thing with the little head and the stem, that's the fruiting body. Everything under that is like the roots is the mycelium. Now there are some companies, and I'm not trying to knock the companies that do this, because I get it. I get why they do it, but there are some companies that will only make their supplements or their extracts with the mycelium, because you can get spores, mushroom spores, and start them growing, and they'll grow the roots first before they grow the little fruit, which is the thing that you're seeing. So the mycelium, there is medicine, there's medicinal value in the mycelium, but there's like 10 times the medicinal value in that fruiting body. It just takes longer for the mushroom plant, basically not plant, for the mushroom to put the fruiting body out. It takes longer for that to happen. And a lot of companies want to cut corners and just get it out as fast as possible to save money and make a profit. And so, like I said, I get that, but at the same time, personally, I prefer the stronger medicine. So if I was going to buy something, I would say, all right, is this made with the fruiting body? That's what you want to look for on your label. I make my own medicinal mushroom tinctures, a double extracted tincture, because this is why you do a double extraction, by the way. The alcohol pulls out the triterpenes. The water pulls out the beta glucans. You can do a double extracted or a triple extracted tincture, but you want to do a tincture. Capsules are okay. That's also all right. It's just you don't. I prefer tinctures. They're easier. Like you can find the fresh mushroom, bring it home, tincture it right away, and it's fresh. It's good to go. You don't have to dry it. You don't have to powder it. You don't have to worry about losing the integrity of that of the mushroom when you powder it and all that. So the double extracted tincture is the way to go of the mushroom fruiting body. So I mean I hopefully don't like sell out after just this podcast, but I really do. I make as much as I can find. But again, I'm one person with 2 hands, I go out and forage it. I don't grow mushrooms on my farm. So
I was going to say, I think I'm your next customer, because
I'm literally on your website right now on my iPad. I'm like, okay, where is this and this?
Well, I'm a fan of Paul Stamets, and Paul Stamets talks, all about turkey tail, especially being like effective. For immunity, fighting against cancer.
Absolutely. Turkey tail normalizes the white blood cell count. The only thing, and I like Paul Stamets a lot, but I will tell you he is the top culprit of using mycelium and not the fruiting body in his supplements.
Oh, really?
So no offense to Paul.
That makes sense, though. He's mass scale.
He's huge. So, exactly. I just like I said, it's not that it doesn't work. It's just not as strong. Because I've heard people say, well, I took this and it didn't work, and I'm like, try something made with the fruiting body or making it yourself. And it's it's a whole different thing. So it's like, I'm going to make medicine with somebody's feet, or I'm going to make some medicine with the whole body, not that we're eating people, but that was a really bad analogy. I know.
Hey, I get it. I get the analogy. It's cool.
So awesome. I had last year I was, because I teach foraging online as well as in person. I was doing videos on turkey tail last year, and somebody on one of my TikTok followers saw my turkey tail video, like, oh, can you make sure that help me figure out if this is turkey tail? My sister's got cancer. And I really want to give her the turkey tail to see if she can help, because she's been going through chemo for the last 3 months. So I said, all right, he ordered some turkey tail tincture from me, and I threw like a handful of dried turkey tail mushrooms in the package too. I was like, just trying to be nice, like, here you go. Hopefully this helps. You can make some of your own. I didn't have a ton left, but I was like, I'm going to give this to this guy to help his sister with cancer. And about a month and a half or 2 months later, I got a call from this woman, and she said, hi, you sold some turkey tail to my son, for my daughter. And she's been going through chemo since like September. And she said, I want to thank you. I want to buy more, and I want to thank you because, she said the only thing we changed about this entire thing was we started giving her your turkey tail tincture, and her white blood cell count was normal for the first time in 4 months.
That's incredible. I
was
love
like,
that.
I was like, oh, that's excellent. That's so great. I felt so good. I sent her more, obviously, and I sent her whatever I could, but I was like, that's great. And then of course you tell a story like that, and then you sell out a turkey tail. But
hey, that's a good problem to have.
It is. I mean, honestly, because of that happened in like February, I think, of last year, February or March of last year. Since then, like, I spent all last year looking for turkey tail. I have like a big bag of turkey tail now, and I'm sure I'm going to keep foraging more next year. But like, so if anybody needs turkey tail mushrooms or the tincture, I've got plenty right now.
Get it while you
I am in
can.
stock. Yeah. So anyway, do you guys have any other questions? Sorry, I need to take a breath.
No.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
You're incredible.
I ramble a lot.
I'm loving this energy. It's so like uplifting. I'm loving it. So keep rambling, girl.
I know, and this is so cool. So for those listeners, and like myself, I'm not really, I've never really been familiar with foraging or what that is, or like, how would a beginner learn about foraging? What do we need to know, like, to make sure that we're not, eating something poisonous on accident?
Well, that's most people's fear is that they're going to eat something toxic.
Yeah.
So the first thing, like, a lot of people are excited about mushrooms, and they get, some people go crazy over me knowing some mushrooms, and I don't know if this is just me being humble or what, but I'm like, look, I know like 20 mushrooms, and there's like 10,000. So I really don't know that much about mushrooms. I can positively identify like 20, maybe 22, out of the thousands and thousands. But excuse me, that's the thing. You got to, get really confident about recognizing this one or two mushroom or something like that. And like, I definitely know there are a few mushrooms that you're not going to mistake for anything else. They're pretty definitely something. But you can always join like a mycology group on Facebook or something like that. I've noticed in the foraging world, more often than not, the people teaching mushroom classes are men, and the people teaching foraging everything else are women. And it's not, there is some crossover, but it's like almost every single mycologist I've ever met is a man. And I don't know what it is. All the men love the mushrooms, but they're like, oh, plants are cool, but I really want the mushrooms. Whatever that secret is, if somebody understands it, just, explain that one to me. But foraging, you want to pick, like, if you hear about it, you get excited, like, I want to see this thing. I want some medicine, or I pick one plant, pick one or two plants, like, start researching those. I actually wrote a book, an ebook. It's a short ebook, but it's called Commonly Misidentified Plants, because I've been teaching this for so long. I can't tell you how many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, and like, there's obviously thousands more that have been telling me, well, isn't that this plant, or isn't that this plant? And I'm like, no, I am 100% positive on my identification here. So there's only like 26 plants in the book, so it's not really overwhelming or anything. And it's an ebook, so there's like links to videos that I've made about that plant, showing you more of that plant. But people confuse. There's a handful of plants that, like, violet looks just like ground ivy, or mullein looks just like lamb's ears, or what about yew and hemlock, or Queen Anne's lace and poison hemlock? And there's a lot of things that can get mistaken.
Yeah.
And when I start teaching foraging, I say to people, look, I know nobody wants to learn Latin. Nobody cares about learning Latin anymore. It's not a big deal. But when you're talking about plants, it's actually really, really helpful if you learn the Latin name of the plant that you're looking for. Okay. I don't know if this grows near you in Washington, but there's a plant called wintergreen. wintergreen or winterberry. Some people call it winterberry. There's another that it's a very small, low growing, like maybe 2 or 3 inch tall plant. It gets these little red berries. They taste like wintergreen. They're delicious. I love them. The leaves are
I didn't know
tasty.
those were edible.
Oh yeah, they're wonderful. I love them. And so that some people call that winterberry. And I did this on a talk last week. I said, so everybody knows that that's winterberry, right? And everybody's yeah, we know. And I said, what about the bush winterberry, Ilex verticillata? That is also known as winterberry. And if you tell somebody, well, winterberry is edible, and they say, well, the only winterberry that I know is Ilex verticillata, this shrub, and they go eating that, they're going to die because the berries on Ilex verticillata are toxic.
Okay.
So
that's where you gotta go.
The berries of wintergreen, Gaultheria procumbens, are edible and delicious. The berries of Ilex verticillata, the big shrub, are toxic. Big difference. That's why common names are great for most people, and I do use common names. But I almost always say, look up the Latin name, because no matter where you are in the world, this is the only good thing, well, not the only good thing, but this is a good thing about botany. No matter where you are in the world, licorice root is Glycyrrhiza glabra. Licorice root is Glycyrrhiza glabra is going to be Glycyrrhiza glabra in New York City, in San Francisco, in Timbuktu, in Taiwan, in Mongolia, in India, in England, everywhere. The Latin name is always the same. So that's why you want to learn the Latin name of it.
Noted.
Everybody's like, it'll be a different Asian name or something like that, but I'm sure it's going to have a Latin name. So
right,
that's important. So anyway, yeah, I can recommend my little ebook. It's like $7 right now. It's not a big deal, not a big purchase, but
go ahead and say it out there.
The Forager's Guide to Commonly Misidentified Plants. It's on my website. My website is herbalremediesbyamelia.com. All my classes and everything that I teach is on herbalremediesbyamelia.com. My products, there's a link to that too, but my products are at blacksunfarmshop.com, because I'm Black Sun Farm. And I will just say real quick, no, I'm not in the Illuminati. I'm not a Mason. Somebody was like, what is the Black Sun? They thought I was like a conspiracy theorist. I'm like, I'm a goth farmer. I'm a goth chick that likes to grow vegetables. I like black tomatoes, black peppers, black carrots. I think they're really cool. I was like, I'm going to name my farm this. And, yeah, I'm not.
I think it's a cool name. And
I love the name.
Thank you.
For all the listeners out there, she even has natural hair dye on her website.
Yeah, I teach that. I've been doing that for 26 years. So I teach you how to do it. That's a class.
You do? I know. I saw it. I'm like, I'm going to click on that later.
Oh yeah, explore my stuff, please. Absolutely. I try
to
make everything. Well, I try to make everything affordable. Basically, I just spent like the last year making a bunch of online classes, teaching everybody everything I know.
Thank you.
So many people, and it's all affordable. So
so many people want to learn this stuff, and it's hard to find like reliable teachers out there. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Yeah, that's some of the people that watch me on TikTok have said that. They're like, I hear there's a lot of noise all over the place. This person's talking about this, but they don't know who to trust. And I'm like,
so hard.
This is my own personal experience. This is everything that I've learned, and I'm teaching you what I've learned. I'm teaching you how I learned it. So hopefully all of that helps. I've gotten quite a lot of good feedback. My gut healing protocol, I've helped at least 4 or 5 people reverse their type 2 diabetes, and
I saw that in the interview.
More people reducing their autoimmune disorders. My remedies from nature online herbal medicine making class, I've had at least 2 or 3 of my people, not customers, students that bought that class, went through that class, and now they've opened their own herbal businesses, making all the same stuff that I've taught them how to make.
That's so cool.
That is so cool.
And I'm like, for $160, that's crazy. Like, you're making a lot more money now that you've done my class. So
I think that's really cool. I love what you do so much.
And it's so important. And there's so many people now who are like really kind of disconnecting from these big pharma, big systems, and really looking for more holistic, natural ways of living. You know, now that we have this yeah, we have all this technology, but with great power comes great responsibility. So we
Yeah,
also should have the awareness of like what it is that we're actually putting in our bodies and being mindful of our toxic load.
Oh yeah. And well,
absolutely.
being the more people, especially in cities and whatnot, people with depression and people stuck in cities and people stuck in office jobs are becoming so disconnected from nature and the
Mhm.
wild that they end up being afraid of it. And once you can finally get somebody like that out into the woods, or even if they're just going out into their local park, go barefoot on the grass for a little while. Don't step in dog poop. Just go barefoot on a good spot of grass for a little while, sit next to a tree. Whatever you can do to get your body back out in nature, that lowers your cortisol levels. It's been
Mhm.
scientifically proven to lower your cortisol, so it lowers your stress. Grounding, there's tons of science on grounding and how it reduces your overall inflammation.
Mm.
So there's so much research about how the benefits of getting out into nature. People reduce their depression and anxiety just by taking a walk in nature.
Yeah.
So hearing the birds singing is part of relaxing you naturally. And there's so many people not hearing that. They're just attached to their screen, whether it's for work or they have to or whatever it is. So that's really important. I'd like to get more people out into the
Right.
world. The pharmaceutical the I'm not a fan of the pharmaceutical industry either. I'm not going to sit here and say every doctor is evil or anything like that.
Yeah.
Because if you cut your foot off, you still want to go to the emergency
Yeah.
room.
Yeah.
You want a surgeon. And if you've got if you're just feeling really horrible, something seriously wrong, you need to go to the hospital, because the hospital is going to be the place that has all the testing equipment.
Yeah.
And some people ask me for help, like, what do I do for this? And once in a while, somebody's asking me something really serious, and I say, oh my God, please get to a doctor. Go to go to the doctor, go to the hospital, because I can't help you, especially because I'm not there. But even if
Right.
it was me, I'd say, no, I'm going to the hospital. That is a big, serious problem. I
Yeah.
can't test you. I can't test your blood. I can't find out, I can't give you an ultrasound from my living room. There's
Right.
some
You can't
things
do
that
an
you
X-ray.
exactly.
Right.
Sometimes you do need the medical system, but I don't want to like say don't ever need a doctor ever again for the rest of your life. But that said, the vast majority of people's illnesses and common
Hmm.
everyday ailments, you can take care of that yourself. You just have to know how. It's not
Hmm.
it's not even that hard. Like, I have one of my most popular videos on TikTok is me chopping up a cabbage and telling people how to get rid of an ulcer. It's
Huh.
that easy. I got an
That's
ulcer
incredible.
back
With
in
cabbage.
2016. Yeah, I got an ulcer in 2016.
Wow.
I was drinking too much wine. I was drinking like Boca Box wine. It was cheap, crappy wine, and I was drinking it all the time. I used to be almost an alcoholic. I drank too much wine, is what I'll say. And it basically, between that and stress, I got a hole in my stomach. I got an
Hmm.
ulcer. And I didn't know it. I ended up in the hospital with horrible pain. It was like rolling, squeezing pain. And they were like, "Oh, we're just going to give you some painkillers and send you home." I ended up
Yep.
seeing my doctor, and they said, no, that's an ulcer. You need to fix that. So they put me on omeprazole, I think it was, whatever, Prilosec, that kind of PPI,
Mm.
proton pump inhibitors,
Yep.
because that's their answer for everything. And I got more side effects from being on that one drug for 2 weeks than I had of the horrible problems in the first place. So I finally just said, the hell with this. And I researched a bunch of different ways, like, how can you heal an ulcer? And it's a cabbage. I spent 2 weeks of hell with like 14 plus side effects. And then
Yep.
I went and bought a $2 head of cabbage, and I healed my ulcer in 3 days.
Oh
That's
my gosh.
incredible.
Stop.
Yeah.
Wow.
So all you do to heal an ulcer, just so in case anybody hasn't seen the video, I have to reshoot the video because I was swearing in the video and people don't like that apparently.
No way.
But yeah,
I don't care.
Swear all day long, girl.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you chop up the cabbage, enough to get it into like a food processor or something. Put some water in the food processor so that it'll blend really well. You blend the ever living crap out of it until it's like a slurry, and then you pour that into a glass, like a canning jar, like a glass jar, something that would potentially have a lid. What you do after that, you get like a piece of old t-shirt, just a little chunk of t-shirt material,
Oh.
sit that on top, put a rubber band around it. What that does is it lets the air in, but no bugs or anything can go in. Nothing else can get in, just the air. And you leave that on your countertop for 3 days to ferment. No salt. People are going to say, oh, that's just sauerkraut. No, sauerkraut's made with a bunch of salt. This is just the cabbage. Just 3 days. You leave that on your countertop, and then you take the cloth off, and you can strain it and just drink the juice. You can drink it with the cabbage. I will tell you right now, it tastes awful. It smells bad, and it's probably going to make you fart. But in about you drink about like a quarter to a half a cup of that juice 2 or 3 times a day, and your ulcer will be healed in about 2 or 3 days, maybe 4,
Well, thank you
depending
for
if it's
that.
bad. Yeah.
Is this my daughter? My 22-year-old daughter is actually like on her third trimester of pregnancy, and she's having a lot of ulcer problems. Would you say that's safe for her?
Oh yeah,
It's
she
it's
has
a
an ulcer
vegetable.
when she's
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah,
That's
she's having some stomach issues. So I'm totally gonna hang when we're done with this. I'm gonna text
it
her and
should,
be like,
yeah, it should be safe. I mean, I would do it in your kitchen. Don't do it like in the basement or anything where there
"Oh
could be
yeah, hell
mold. But yeah.
yeah."
But yeah, that should be safe for her. And
Yeah, it's a
for pregnant women,
vegetable.
yeah, and yeah, hopefully she's taking ginger, because ginger's going to help her a lot.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yeah,
I'll let her know. She's
ginger will
just like,
help with
I'm
the
trying to do
nausea.
this organic stuff, but the doctors give me this, and I'm not taking it. So I
If
will.
she's getting like a lot of irritation in her digestive tract and holes in her stomach and things like that, there are 2 plants that she can check out, and that is slippery elm and
I have
marshmallow
some of
root.
that. Yeah.
So a lot of people have slippery elm, and I love slippery elm, don't get me wrong, but I try not to push slippery elm to people because it's not endangered yet, but it's in danger of becoming endangered because of
Oh
how
wow. Oh,
incredibly how many people want it. The only way to get slippery elm is to wildcraft it. They have to cut the whole tree down, strip all the bark off of
oh.
everything, and that's the only way to do so. You can't like just grow it, cultivate it. Whereas marshmallow grows like crazy. It's easy to grow. I have a crap load of seeds. If anybody needs marshmallow seeds, I'll just, yeah, they're there in my shop. It's like $2. But anyway, marshmallow grows really quickly and easily. You can dig the roots up, and they'll keep coming back year after year after year. The roots are awesome. They do the exact same thing as slippery elm. So
Okay.
you want to make a tea with that with
Marshmallow.
marshmallow root, marshmallow leaves, if you can find them, or make a nice tea too. The best way to get the mucilaginous properties of the marshmallow out is to actually do like a not cold water, but like lukewarm water. So it's going to be kind of grody looking, because what you do is you chop up the marshmallow root, or you take the broken up marshmallow root, you put it in a jar, and you don't not boiling water, just like water from your tap, basically, or
Hmm.
filtered water. And you let it sit in that jar for like 6 to 12 hours. And then you can strain it, but it's going to look like snot. It's really, really goopy. Marshmallows, the treat, the sugary treat, originally came from marshmallow plant because it's mucilaginous and it's sweet and it's soothing, and
Uh-huh.
it's got this natural goopiness to it. You
So it is
can
a sweet drink.
it's a little bit on the sweet side. Well, it's not like sugar. If
Well,
you're
yeah,
used to
but
sugar, but yeah, for a plant, it's sweet. But the medicinal part that you're really looking for is that mucilage, that goopy,
the
soothing
thick.
stuff, and that's going to soothe your throat. It's going to soothe your whole digestive tract all the way through. So,
Oh, I'm so
taking
excited.
that, for probably a couple of weeks would help her a lot with soothing
Okay.
and healing the digestive tract. Also, plantain. Plantain's fantastic. You could take plantain internally. Do you guys know what plantain is?
Yes.
Plantain leaf.
The
Banana, right?
oh,
Is
The
that no?
leaf.
Oh, okay.
Plantain banana is it's not, it's like a banana. No, plantain leaf.
Okay.
Plantago major or Plantago lanceolata. If I showed you a picture, you'd be like, "Oh, I have that in my driveway." It's
Oh, how
everywhere.
funny.
Everywhere. Plantain
this is the
is
stuff they should be teaching in school, elementary
I
school, middle school,
know.
high school. This is so frustrating that we don't know the important stuff.
I used to be a substitute teacher for a little while, and I would sneak into the elementary school and teach the kids all kinds of stuff about
I
plants
totally
and be
I
love
like,
love
so
that.
much.
I'd be like, I'm just going to teach you about dandelions for today, and
Right.
whatever. Because the
That's
school
so
system's garbage.
important because if we knew that we could, heal ourselves naturally without having
Hmm.
to go to the doctor and pay a bunch of money and put a bunch of false,
Yeah,
you know,
that's
stuff
the
created
whole
from a lab in our bodies.
everything that
Right.
my whole goal in this business and what I do is I really want to just teach everybody. I want to teach everybody
Yeah.
how to heal themselves so that they
Yes.
don't need people like me anymore. Like I want, yes, you're going to have to pay me to learn from my class, but then after that, you know how to do it. You don't have to keep paying people to learn all this
Right.
stuff.
Right.
You can further your herbal education,
Which
because I'm
is
not going to say I'm the best herbalist in the world. You can take more class. I've taken I still take classes. I'm taking like 3 classes right now to keep, furthering my education. But
it's like one of those things like you'll never be done learning because there's billions of plants on the planet,
mhm.
but and that's also
Well,
the reason why they don't push this on us on
I'm gonna,
children or teach us how, because they don't want to lose their market
of course,
Yeah.
they want people
and
to
we're
stay
aware.
sick. They want people to
Yeah.
stay sick. It's more money. You make more money
Yeah.
when it's sick. That's why I'm so glad that you can't patent plants. They can't,
Yeah.
they can't patent plants. That's still the medicine of the people, thank God. I will say the one of the little soapboxes I'll stand on is I I'm a bioregional herbalist. Like for the most part, 99% of everything I work with is plants that I can either grow or forage here myself. And I
Mhm.
know everybody lives somewhere different, but I highly encourage you to, if you're gonna start learning about plants, like you can take a class online or whatever. They're going to teach you some of the regular, normal plants people will buy from this place or that place. But I highly encourage you to learn what's in your region.
Yeah.
Like whatever weeds are going around, I guarantee you some of the weeds in your backyard are medicine and you just don't know it.
Wow.
Start learning those plants because and this is a lesson. I did a video on this today for TikTok. The lesson that everybody learned during lockdown and COVID and all that
Right.
is that um, when that happened, pretty much every herb company sold out in like
Mhm.
2 weeks. You could not find most herbs anywhere, like no elderberry anywhere, no plant, no calendula, no nothing. If you didn't know how to grow it yourself or find it yourself, you were SOL. And I thank God I knew how to forage. I knew how to forage. I knew how
Right.
to grow stuff. So I had plenty of herbs. But it's so important. If shit ever hits the fan, if
Right.
the grid goes down, the economy, any kind of stuff like
Like a
that,
local foraging.
yes, learn what is available in your region because that someday could be the difference between you being able to heal yourself or being
Mhm.
stuck dying in, the woods on the side of the road or something.
Wow.
That's really cool. I'm so
Yeah,
excited that you're here today.
I
Thank you.
know. That's so amazing. What is an herb that has a surprising benefit that we probably don't know about?
Oh gosh. Let me think. I'm trying to think of a specific herb.
Or a
Does it have to be
plant
something
or
weird?
no, just
No.
maybe like something unexpected. Like we all know chamomile helps you relax, right? But like, is there an herb that was known for one thing that has this other surprising benefit that maybe we
Well,
don't know about?
plantain, again, I will say that the herb that I was just trying to tell you guys about that probably grows in your driveway. If you look up plantain, the plant it's leaves. You're looking for the leaves. Most people know plantain very, very well. Plantain was my first like real herb that I was in love with. Because if you get a bug bite or a bee sting, or if you get a scratch on your skin or something, like plantain is the one herb I teach every child I ever meet. Even if they're 2 years old, I teach them about plantain. Like my kids knew plantain from the moment they could walk because
That's cool.
you pick this leaf, you chew it up, and you stick it on the bee sting or you stick it on the cut or whatever, and it stops your bleeding. It heals the cut. It stops the pain from the bee sting. It stops the itching from the bug bite. It's amazing. It's
Very
awesome for your
Oh
skin.
yeah. I know these
So
leaves.
okay. Yeah, I'm gonna
yeah,
look that
see,
up.
plantain. Everybody knows plantain. They just don't know
Yeah.
it. And most
How
people know
cool.
that. But the thing that a lot of people don't realize is that plantain is just as good for your internal system as it is for your external. So
Like
just like it heals your skin, it'll heal your digestive tract
hmm,
inside in your
Wow.
body. So plantain is like one of the main ingredients in my gut healing tea that I make.
wow, that's
So yeah,
cool.
Amazing. What a powerhouse.
yeah, absolutely.
That is so cool. Well, Amelia, as we start to wrap up, Chrissy and I have a question that we each like to ask all of our guests. And my question is, like, what are you here for in the new earth? You know, when we talk about this shift that's coming and all these new earth modalities and ways of healing and ways of being, like, I can probably guess what yours is, but I want to hear it from you. Like, what are you here
Right.
for?
I feel like I'm here to heal people. I'm here to teach people how to heal themselves and to help
Yes,
people
girl.
heal with the power of plants and but with also food as medicine. Because so
Mm,
many people overlook that. They like, oh, what herb can I take for this? What herb can I take for that? I want this herb instead of this drug. And it's like that's not how it works. You really need to work on the foundations. I tell people think of your body like a cake. Your whole body's like a cake, okay? Your stomach and your digestive tract is the cake part that you would bake. All right, and the herbs are like the icing on the cake.
How cool.
So
I love that.
herbs aren't going to do any good without a good strong cake to sit on.
Yeah.
You know, that you can take as many herbs as you want, but if your digestive tract is all out of whack, that's going to affect absolutely everything else. So your diet and your lifestyle and the foods that you're putting into your body are the most important thing you can pay attention to as far as your health goes. Like, I love herbs, don't get me wrong. I just really want people to pay attention to their health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh my gosh, I think you
Beautiful.
might have already answered my question.
Okay.
So for me, my question is, if there's one message you could give to every single person on this earth, what would that message be?
Yeah, food is medicine. Food is medicine.
I love it.
That's
beautiful.
Yeah,
I love it. I'm obsessed
herbs are
with you.
amazing. Plants are here to heal us. They want to heal us. We've got a symbiotic relationship with everything, but please don't ever underestimate food as your medicine, because even people that have been stuck on the pharmaceutical bandwagon for years know they're going to keep putting you on more and more and more drugs. Like, well, this drug's going to take care of this symptom. This drug's going to take care of this side effect. Or you could fix the root cause of the problem and not have all those symptoms anymore.
Love it.
You know, some pharmaceuticals are necessary. If you're on a drug that's keeping your heart beating, don't stop taking that just because I said plants are cool. You know, I honestly, I had thyroid cancer 2 years ago. So I'm on NP thyroid, which is basically pig thyroid hormone. So I have to take that medication. And I've tried to find alternatives. There's no way to get the exact dosage with an alternative that I need. So that's why I'm on the medication I'm on. It's the only natural version. So I do look for the natural, not the synthetic stuff. And if your doctor says you have to be on this drug, say, is there a natural version? Is there some kind of natural thing that's like that I can take instead of this synthetic thing that's made in a lab?
Yeah.
There's probably an option. Your doctor's just not telling you because they get a better kickback from the synthetic crap, you know?
Right, absolutely. I agree
So
with that.
always ask, but then always find somebody like me that you can ask and try to fix the root cause of your problems.
Oh, you're definitely my new go-to girl.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to be all on TikTok. Like,
well, I do consultations too if you need help with anything.
Oh, you do?
I do consultations over the phone usually. Yeah. And I do all over the country.
For sure.
Amazing. Well, Amelia, please share with us and our listeners, like, where can we find you if we want to connect with you and learn more?
So, all right. On Facebook, it's blacksunfarm CT, and it's sun SUN, just like a little black sun. That's my logo. blacksunfarm CT on Facebook. On Instagram, it's just blacksunfarm. On TikTok is the only weird place that I have a weird name. It's because when I started TikTok, I didn't think anything was going to come of it. So I was like, I'm just going to put whatever BS name. And now everybody knows my name on TikTok. So I'm like, I can't change it now.
Yeah.
It's at the original Meal Chan. It's kind of hard. You're going to have the original Meal Chan, MEALCHAN, because my nickname in high school was Meal Chan. Amelia Meal Chan. Yeah. Anyway. I liked anime at 12, and I got my butt kicked for liking anime. So anyway, also my farm website is blacksunfarmct.com. So there's links to everything there. But my online classes is herbal remedies by amelia.com. And my online shop for my physical products is blacksunfarmshop.com. And there's always, I'll tell you right now, I am so backed up because, again, I'm only one person. There's so much stuff that I just haven't had time to bottle. If there's something you're looking for, feel free to send me a message and say, hey, do you have any of this? Do you have anything like that? You know, and I can, there's a very real chance that I've got it, and I just haven't had time to put it in the shop yet because everything takes time, you know?
Right. We will also be linking all of your socials and websites.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Good.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, once again, thank you so much for Amelia for joining us today and sharing your amazing wisdom about all the beautiful remedies that Mother Nature has to offer and all the different ways that we can connect with Mother Nature and show our respect and gratitude.
Hey, thank you.
And your incredible energy. You bring such an alive energy. Like, thank you for bringing that today.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it's funny. You wouldn't know that I'm a little tired, would you?
No. I love it.
Oh, it's been such a
I don't
pleasure
drink
having.
coffee, believe it or not. I just really love this much.
I love it.
Yeah,
Yeah, natural energy.
Yep.
right.
Well, thank you again so much, Amelia. It's been such a pleasure having you. And
Thank you.
you all for tuning in to New Earth News, a show where we talk all things 5D and the New Earth every Friday on YouTube. So if you're watching us on YouTube, feel free to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. New Earth News is also available as a podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. So make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And of course, if you're so inclined, give your girls a 5-star rating. Thank you so much again for tuning in. And until next time,
choose the matrix of love and align yourself to the frequency of the new earth. Thank you.